Hi, this is Roberta Glass, and today we're going to talk about NXIVM, Pimp Mac Gets Religion. So, before we start, I just want to thank William Ramsey for the interview that he did with me about NXIVM. You can find that on his channel, and also for hosting my show with Meredith about the staircase on his channel. I really appreciate it, and it's always great to talk to him. And I thought we had a good talk. You know, you always feel like, or I always feel like with this particular subject, that I never, that there's never enough time. And if you haven't already heard his interview with Frank Parlato, who is the premier journalist on NXIVM, he writes the Frank Report, and he writes on NXIVM every single day. Check out William Ramsey's hour-long interview with him, with Frank Parlato. It's excellent, and it will give you a real sense of the history and dynamics of this 20-year-old cult. So I just wanted to alert you to a few stories in the news. For one, Allison Mack, who used to call herself Pimp Mack because she went out and got women and possibly underage girls for her Vanguard, Keith Raniere, the head of the cult, NXIVM. Pimp Mack, who is now out on $5 million bail and an ankle monitor, she wants her bail conditions to be broadened to allow her to get a job, volunteer in the community, and, here's the kicker, go to church. And Melissa Roberto, who I had the pleasure of sitting next to at, I think it was the most recent hearing, NXIVM hearing, wrote a really good article about some ex-NXIVM members' reaction to Allison Mack's possibly getting this new broadened bail deal, and it's looking like she'll get it. And they're very concerned as to why she wants to go to church. The people quoted in the article, they're like unnamed sources, say, you know, the only God she believes in is Keith Raniere. So I thought it was very interesting, and of course my alarm bells went off because at the last hearing I was at, a big issue was whether the defendants asked if they could communicate with each other in the presence of their lawyers, and the judge said that was okay. They can't talk to each other, you know, socially, because any of the defendants, any of the 6 defendants. But there was an issue brought up that they are talking to each other using third parties and possibly intimidating witnesses. So my concern is that Allison Mack is asking for these new broadened bail conditions so that she can communicate with possibly a third party, make different kinds of arrangements so that she can get her testimony in line with the other people's testimony and get herself out of the trouble that she's in. I think you would have to be crazy not to think that. There was also a blind item in Crazy Days and Nights suggesting that Allison Mack is also trying to pimp herself out for once in order to raise money for her defense. That, I guess, is all speculation and just a rumor at this point, but the more important thing is to think about this is a criminal enterprise, and no matter how well-spoken, well-educated, and well-moneyed some of these defendants are, they are still criminals, and they are going to approach their trial like criminals. So, I don't know. It just seemed like a Sopranos scene for me with, like, you know, I kept thinking of Junior Soprano when he was on house arrest and going to funerals because he was so bored. But I think this is more than boredom. I think that she wants to have as many options as possible in as many ways as possible to meet fellow defendants or fellow people who know other defendants, third parties. So that is concerning. Kathy Russell, who is another defendant who is out on $25,000 bail. She was the bookkeeper and the designated fall woman for NXIVM. So the idea was that should NXIVM come to the attention of the law, should they have charges pressed against Keith Raniere, she would step up and say, I did everything. And they told her it was, once again, it was the ethical thing to do, it was character building, and they're putting a pressure on a lot of women to take the fall for Keith Raniere, not just Kathy Russell, but the idea, the plan they had in store was that she would take the fall. So she has upped her bail to $150,000 thanks to her friend Eric Mumford, who signed the new bail agreement, and she has a new lawyer. That brings the total amount of NXIVM lawyers to 21. So it was no joke when the judge, the last hearing said, we're going to need some more chairs in a bigger courtroom. We, like Jaws, might need a bigger courtroom for all these lawyers. 21 lawyers. And so Kathy Russell now has Justine Harris and Amanda Ravitch as her lawyers. And the question is, who's paying? There was also an interesting interview with Catherine Oxenberg and Megan Kelly, and the second half was with Keith Raniere's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo. And the most important question was not asked. And when Catherine Oxenberg announced that her daughter India, who she has been trying to get out of this cult for more than a year, it was announced that she had left the cult after, trying to deprogram her and everything. Megan Kelly didn't ask, well, how did that happen? What happened at the beginning of your mega book launch that your daughter suddenly came to her senses and decided to leave the cult? So my question is, what happened? And was there a agreement made that Catherine Oxenberg might not have certain things in her book, might not talk about certain things? I have no idea. I mean, what do you guys think? Was it just a coincidence that India Oxenberg left NXIVM right before Catherine Oxenberg went on her press tour? So that remained unanswered, and India is not talking. She had her daughter read a letter, and she had her mother read a letter. I think that was really a Freudian slip, because it was just so weird to me to see a younger daughter control her mother's speech and behavior. I mean, that just wouldn't go down in my family. I don't think I would ever hear about the hell. I would never stop hearing about the hell that I put my mother through. So the more interesting interview, however, I thought, was with Mark Agnifilo. And he's coming right out saying it's not a cult, it was all the women's idea, because, the illegal aspects of NXIVM are the coercion, the kidnapping type thing where you can't not let people leave, the branding people against their will. So it really comes down to will. What I mean by kidnapping is in the where they're getting branded, you're having people hold you down. That could be possibly seen as kidnapping. And you're basically torturing someone, for 30 minutes, using a cauterizing tool on right below your hip bone, right, above your vagina. I mean, it's just like, these brands are always so sexual, always in such sexual places for these sociopaths. Anyway, so, could they have left? Could they have walked up and left? So where does free will come in? And that's going to be the big legal issue in all of this. So, of course, he said it was all their idea. He brought in feminism. And he brought up the fact that there is a tape of this branding. Specifically Sarah Edmondson's branding. He said, wait to hear the tape. See the tape. So I will be waiting for that to see how that came to be. Why they decided to film something like that. That will be an interesting piece of evidence and how he's going to spin that. Because you can't imagine that the descriptions we've heard of that branding are women being held down, told to think of their master as they're going through an extremely blindfolded, extremely painful thing, weeping, smell of burning flesh. And my first thought on it was that, of course, if you're watching, something's painful, it's not painful for the viewer, but I'd be interested to see how much of Sarah Edmondson's description can be seen on tape. And this was a organization that put a high value on strength and ethics and character. So if you could take this level of pain, would that show that you were of a better character? I mean, the whole thing of eating 500 to 800 calories and running 30 miles a week and not sleeping and working and being a literal slave to someone else is so, the whole organization is so masochistic. So let's just listen to this interview and let me stop talking. So check this out.
Let's talk NXIVM.
Okay.
Was this a cult?
I don't view it as a cult. I don't think it really matters at the end of the day if it's a cult or not. It's a successful self-help program. The key with NXIVM, it's really an ethical view. And if I had to put it in the smallest of terms, it's taking full responsibility for every aspect of your life, never seeing yourself as a victim of something else.
But when you look at what NXIVM is accused of, it certainly sounds and acts like a cult. You've got Raniere, who goes by Vanguard. You've got alleged masters and slaves. You've got no men. The women are expected to have sex with Raniere and only Raniere, and he can have sex with whomever he wants. There's the shunning of defectors.
Well, all right, so now there's NXIVM and then there's DOS, and they're two separate things. Because DOS is operating on the premise that for so long, women have calibrated their value in regard to men. I want to make as much as a man. I want to be respected like a man is respected. DOS takes that idea and says, let's take men out of the sentence. Now, the ideas were inspired by Raniere. We don't walk away from that. We admit that. But DOS is a sorority, a group of women, and we're going to have some extreme protocols. Admittedly, some of us are going to brand ourselves. Absolutely 100% voluntarily.
Did Keith Raniere know anything about DOS?
He knew about DOS, yes.
He did?
Yeah,
Did he know about the branding?
I think he knew about every part of it.
Did he enjoy that?
I don't think he enjoyed it. I think that it was something that the women wanted to do and that he thought was not inappropriate if that's what they wanted to do.
He loved it.
I don't think he loved it. These women wanted to be part of DOS. It was a little extreme. It was a little dangerous. It was a little edgy. It was all those things. That's why they wanted it. And I will be able to put on the witness stand woman after woman who's going to be absolutely believable and credible, who's going to say that. And I think a jury is going to see this my way.
Do you think women like Sarah Edmondson wanted it?
She wanted to be branded. There's no doubt, 100%.
She talks about lying there without any anesthesia and having her skin cauterized.
Wait till we see the video. There's a video.
So the defense to that is it was all consensual.
100%.
But just the notion of getting branded. That's it. The audience is with me. Cult.
Talk to all the football players who have a branding on their arm. Are they all in cults? You know what the difference is? They're men.
Did they sit
They're
around
men.
naked and having to give collateral, personally damaging information before they could be admitted to the secret society where you brand yourself?
I'm not sure how the men were branded. And you know why? Because we never bothered to ask, because they're men.
Are you trying to make this about...
100% I am. Am I trying to? It is.
So this is female
It is.
empowerment.
100%.
First off, in my experience in life, do not trust anyone who answers the question 100%. And you know what's so funny about that? Go back to my first NXIVM video where I played the Joe Rogan clip. And he's saying, well, some women, they like to be tied up. And Joe Rogan's co-host, or the guy who's there, goes, 100%, 100%. Did that stick in Mark Agnafilo's brain? And he's just answering 100%, 100%. I mean, he's like, oh, thank you, Joe Rogan. That's a great defense. And I love that 100% thing. That's really cool. I'm just going to keep saying that to Megyn Kelly, 100%. I mean, he comes off so poorly, in my eyes, in that interview. But it gives you an idea of what the strategy is going to be for the defense. And I am going to make a prediction right here that he will take the position. You don't have to like my client. My client is a little edgy. He's a little eccentric. You don't have to like him, but he didn't break the law. You know, being edgy, being eccentric, doing kind of distasteful things like having slaves. That's not against the law if it's consensual. I bet you that will be his defense, that he's unlikable. He's going to have to bring... The stuff is so stomach-turning that is the only route he can go, in my opinion. That is my prediction right here. So it'll be interesting to see if I'm right. Just to give you a little history on Mark Agnafilo, he is connected with, I want to say Bronfman and Associates, which is Benjamin Bronfman. He's a criminal defense attorney in New York. So Mark Agnafilo is a lawyer at that firm. And interestingly, Bronfman and Associates is also defending Harvey Weinstein. So they've, done a lot of famous cases. They got Puff Daddy off. They recently, Mark Agnafilo did a case where rabbis were taking large sums of money. This is obviously Orthodox rabbis were taking large sums of money from men to kidnap women and force them to divorce their husbands, so that the husbands could, go and be philanthropers, go have affairs, whatever. What is that word? Philanderers. I think they're talking about combining two words. So it is it's like, when you have they've done a lot of really high profile cases with, they also did the Martin Scarelli, is that how you pronounce his name? The Pharma Bro dude, who's now in prison. They also represented him. Shkreli, is that it? They represented him. So they've represented a lot of unlikable characters in New York, and sort of stomach-turning cases. They're your person to call if you have the bucks. These lawyers do not come cheap. And as I wrap up, the Vanguard himself, Keith Raniere, put in a complaint to jail where he's staying in Brooklyn that his cell is too dark and too cold. Apparently, he does not have the incredible ethics and character to withstand the cold and dampness of his cell. So he also has a broken arm, which he says that he got falling on the floor doing kicks in his cell. So it sounds like possibly someone beat him up. I don't know. But there's no news on that, details of that. But his arm is messed up. So he will have to deal with his sprained arm in the Metropolitan Detention Center. So I want to wish you all happy Vanguard Week. This is the week that the NXIVM devotees would gather and celebrate all week the Vanguard's birthday. So I want to say to all of my listeners, especially the new subscribers, thank you. Really appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts on any of the new stories, if you have an opinion as to why Allison Mack wants to go to church, wants to volunteer in her community, leave me a comment. If you have some thoughts on Mark Agnifilo and you feel 100% some way, leave a comment. And I'll see you back here again next time.